So the first law of logic we're going to look at is the law of non-contradiction. Remember that all the laws of logic are axioms, which means they are widely accepted as true, even though there are no hard proof for them, and they are not falsifiable, because falsifying them would take the axiom itself. So the law of non-contradiction states if B equals A, then B does not equal A, cannot exist at the same time. Some examples of this would be a married bachelor, because married, by definition, is being legally bound to someone else, and bachelor would be not being legally bound to someone else. These two things are mutually exclusive, which means that if one's true, the other cannot be true. Another example would be a person existing and not existing at the same time. So we know that someone can exist and then not exist, but at the same time someone cannot exist and not exist. It cannot exist and exist. The other one is the day of the week being Monday and Tuesday at the same time and place. So even if you're on the date line, when you stepped over and across it, say you step back and forth, it would only be that day or that time at that certain point in time. You could not be having it be both Monday and Tuesday at the same time. So there's some errors that can arise when we are trying to identify the law of non-contradiction, and there's some misconceptions about what it is. The biggest one is probably actions relating to time. So all actions take time in order to occur. So if I was to throw a baseball, there would be an instant in time where I'm actually going through the action of throwing a baseball. So if I was to say that I am not throwing the baseball and throwing the baseball, that would be a contradiction in the span of in all spans of time. However, there's going to be a time span at which I am throwing it and which I am not throwing it. So actions are very, very sensitive. So for example, it's snowing outside. The action of snowing can be very quick. I mean, we can have some small snow showers and then it just stops. So if I was to say it's snowing outside and then come back into you and say it's snowing outside, you look out the window and say, well, it's not snowing outside. That wouldn't be a violation of the law, because it might have stopped snowing on my way to run in and tell you that it's snowing out. So actions are very, very sensitive to time. The next one would be descriptions that are not mutually exclusive. So for example, he was a tall little person. Well, little person here is a euphemism for someone with dwarfism. And tall is a comparative term. So comparatively, there could be taller people than the people that have dwarfism. And these two are not mutually exclusive. We can have a tall person with dwarfism and not have a contradiction by nature of how these words label things. The final error that can arise is a tu quoque fallacy, which would be an appeal to hypocrisy. So we know that people can act contradictory to what they say, and they do it all the time, and I've done it, most of you have done it. So, for example, if you said to someone, you said fast food is bad for you, yet I saw you eat a cheeseburger yesterday. Well, you have three things that are not mutually exclusive here. First off, you have the truth of the claim fast food is bad. You have the action of the person. And finally, you have what they said. And all three of these can be opposed to each other, but not break the law of non-contradiction. Because we know that people who are we know that the truth value, that fast food is bad for you, is true. And if someone eats it, that doesn't then make this false. So if someone says fast food is bad and then they eat it, it doesn't then make this a false. It still makes the claim what it was originally, which is true. And no matter what they say is not going to affect the truth of their claim. And finally, I wanted to go over one last thing too. So if someone said, say they were in a graduating class of one, maybe a homeschooler or someone from a very, very small private school, and they said, well, I was the smartest and the dumbest in my class, would this be a violation of the law of non-contradiction? Well, what we would find is that smartest is a superlative, and for there to be any use for superlatives, there has to be more than one person. So, if anything, it's a misuse of the words. At best, it's trivial, because there's nothing to compare it to, and, well, there's only one, so it's really a meaningless statement. So that's a little overview for the law of non-contradiction. Next, we're going to look at the law of identity, and you'll find that it has a lot of the same properties of the law of non-contradiction. So I'll leave you with this.